Hi guys, it's Catspace here. Today I have my friend Katie with me.
Yahoo!
So Katie, can you please introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, sure. So hello everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Katie. I have been living in Japan for about 4 years. I'm an English professor. I also run my own business and I'm actually studying front-end engineering.
You are in Japan for 4 years. So after Corona, you came here?
So I came in 2019. So I was here for COVID.
Wait, so you reached here and then COVID?
Yeah.
Oh my
Literally,
God.
I think I was here for like a couple of months. 3 months maybe, and then COVID hit. So I was here the first time. I was living in Kansai before I moved to Tokyo. And I lived there for 2.5 years.
Okay.
Then I went back to England.
But when you went back to England, Corona is getting better?
It was getting...
After 2.5 years, right?
Yeah, so it was getting better, but we still had the issue of like not many Japanese companies were sponsoring new visas.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. Even the foreigner cannot enter Japan that time.
Yeah, so I got stuck.
So how's the experience that time? Did you get a lockdown that you cannot go out?
No, it was so weird, right? So
and you have to wear mask, right?
we had to wear the mask.
Yeah.
I had to wear the mask and like a face shield.
Okay.
Because at the time I was teaching, right? And
Can I ask, like, the school just operate usually? Do they turn to online?
So at that time, now I'm a university professor, right? But at that time I was actually just doing English conversation in like a private setting.
Okay.
So it was normally one-on-one.
Okay.
Apart from children's classes, which was 6. And I also did elderly classes, which actually got cancelled because of coronavirus.
Okay. Oh yeah. That should. But your school didn't switch to online at all?
No, we did a few online, but mainly life in Japan was so weird because it was so normal, right?
Yeah.
Every day I would still go to Starbucks.
Oh.
And the only difference was we had the plastic sheets, right?
Because I never really experienced the COVID situation in Japan, but from what I heard, sounds like that. Like the life still goes on with masks, right?
Yeah, everything was pretty much normal.
So during that time, you still work normal.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the seriousness of this COVID in Japan during that time?
It didn't,
really.
I feel like it didn't have as much impact over here, right? Because it was different as well, because in England they made it a law that everybody has to stay at home, right? But the Japanese government doesn't have the law to force people to stay at home.
They just like suggest
and most people will do because that's the culture over here, right? So it didn't have quite the same kind of fear level attached to it. It was still really scary, but not as much as it was in England.
Now you're like a professor in university, so you have been teach for like 4 years, right?
Yeah, in Japan for 4 years.
Yeah. So how do you feel? Because I have a lot of friends, they work as ALT teacher, but I don't really have friends who work as like conversational teacher and even professor in university. So do you feel much like different?
Yeah,
these two settings.
It's massively different, right? The teaching style is completely different, and also for universities you have to think more about the academic progression. So if I'm doing Eikaiwa, for example, I can just have debates or discussions about topics and teach through the topic.
Yeah, it's more flexible.
It's more flexible, and I can tailor it to each one specific person. But if I'm teaching at university, so for example, I teach, it's weird, it's like a set package, but we do like academic writing, discussion, debating, TOEIC, obviously.
Okay. Oh, it's more structured.
It's more structured and like academic focused.
What's the age of your student that you teach in university?
I teach first year university students. And my students are students that are aiming to go for travel, like study abroad in year 2.
Wait, so their English is somewhat okay compared to most of the Japanese that we know?
It depends on what your definition of okay.
But okay, conversational, manageable for you?
Not when they start, right? Because they still have the same issue in that everyone goes through the Japanese high school teaching system, right? And they don't practice output for speaking in high school.
So the output is still a little bit hard for them.
It's really hard.
For example, in your class, do you think they are still afraid of speak up? Because it's an English lesson class. Is it better?
No, it's so bad.
I think people just stress, right? Every student is like, oh my god, it's my turn or what?
Yeah, and I think as well, like literally it takes probably about 3 weeks. 3 weeks for students to warm up and like actively participate.
Okay.
Because the teaching style is different for our program. Everything else at university is, I'm a professor, I will stand here, I will teach you, you will make notes, learn and study it, right? And then that's the end. But ours is like the Western style, right? What do you think about this?
Okay, when they have to
Challenge me, right?
Yeah.
You have to participate. So for the first 3 weeks, it's
like nobody gonna
it's
answer
so
you. It's
hard.
Like,
Yeah, and I'm like, guys, I have an hour. I can stand here an hour and wait. It's fine.
So in the end, do you have to like call out their name? Like,
Yeah. So
Tanaka-san, what do you think?
yeah, eventually I have to call out, but I think it's more about changing the culture, right? Because at that point, it's not just about being able to speak English. To study abroad and to do well living abroad, you need to think culturally like a Western person, right? To get the most from the experience.
But I think that's hard to achieve from like academic studying in Japan. I would say people can only experience when they are really like staying there and learning things.
Yeah, there's definitely techniques like as a professor that you can use to encourage it, because your job is to get people ready, right? If they go to their study abroad and they're not yet at that point of actively participating, they've overcome their fears, they don't care about whether they make mistakes because they understand that's how progression happens, then you've not done your job, right? You need to teach all of this alongside English language to get them ready.
Yeah, I think the goal is different. Like you have to prepare them to study abroad. But like you say, your student mostly they are aimed for study abroad.
Yeah.
So I think at this age, when they want to learn English, I think they have more conscious, right? Like usually we are like, oh, because the school forced me to learn, that's why I learned. But I feel like in your student case, they might be more initiative in this. So wouldn't they like speak up more?
I think if that was Japanese culture, then yes. But Japanese culture is everybody should be on the same level, right? Nobody wants to be the first person. Nobody wants to stand out. Right?
Okay. Even though they might have that in their heart, but they're like, when nobody
They
stands
will
out.
just until they get used to it, and until they know it's like it's a safe space. And also you have to do more jobs of like when they do eventually start going, oh, I know. Then you're like, even if it's wrong, you need to think of your word choices, right? You're like, oh, that's a really good suggestion. Totally wrong. Any other ideas? Any idea? It's a great suggestion. Well done. Thank you.
I'm also teaching piano, right? Like being a teacher, you also have to be careful of your words, right? How you communicate. But so compare this teaching experience with the one you have in Kansai, the conversational one. What do you think the one at that one you have a lot of different age group? Like you said, even elderly.
The elderly ones I really enjoyed because I'm not sure if it's a cultural thing in Japan here, but even when you're a lot older, you still want to improve your mind and you still want to be physically active.
I think most of the Japanese, I feel that they are like that. Even they quit their job, most of them will definitely do something, either reading or they participating in all this dance or whatever.
Yeah, and I felt like that's the same, right? Because for these ladies, it was different. We would eat cake and drink tea, kind of.
Wait, how about in Malaysia? I think they just go out restaurant and gossip.
Yeah, it was
just
basically gossip.
Yeah, okay.
So we mainly talked about things like hobbies, what my nana does in England, because obviously they're similar kind of ages, and I think they were like in their 80s maybe.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they asked me lots of questions about whether I had a boyfriend. They were so cute. My preference is university students because I like quite deep discussions.
Oh, okay.
And
I see.
Can see more of a change, right? Like they come, they're really shy, they're not confident, and then after I finish teaching them, they're ready to study abroad.
Why you decided to come to Japan 4 years ago, the first one, then you were at Kansai?
So I was in California at the time, and then I was working remotely doing SEO writing for a travel company in Singapore, and they said to me, random question, do you want to come to Japan and rent a car and write about your experience?
Oh,
For
okay,
3 weeks.
okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I can't drive. Luckily, my boyfriend could drive at the
Oh,
time.
okay.
And so I was like, yeah, as long as I can bring my partner with me. And they were like, yeah, we'll pay for all the flights and everything. That's fine.
Oh, that's your first time
That was
in
my
Japan?
first time in Japan. And
Do you
then
know anything about Japan before that?
No, nothing. It wasn't really on my list.
But you only came for 3 weeks and then you
3 weeks.
went there.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the experience here that time?
Yeah, and so then I was like, oh, I want to come and stay for longer. So we got our own like tourist visa. Yeah.
Then you found like English teaching job and then you just come here.
Yeah.
After the COVID, you went back and then you still decide to come back. So you really like Japan?
Japan's my home now. I have no intention of.
If you can, you want to stay here.
I'll just stay.
I didn't ask you before about Japanese. So when you first came, do you speak any Japanese? Not the 3 weeks as in you came to Kansai to teach English?
So I remember starting Japanese because I was just like scrolling as you do on YouTube, like, boop, 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 and there was a Japanese count from 1 to 10. It just popped up.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know why. I think at the time I was still learning Spanish. The 1 to 2 at 10 video came out and I was like, oh, that was really good fun. And so I was already studying Spanish, right, which was fine. And then I was like, oh, I'll just study Japanese alongside. And then now I've completely forgotten my Spanish and it's just Japanese only.
Okay. But when you first came to Kansai, you really know some Japanese? Like, at least how much is this? Like,
Yeah, so I remember when I was in Kansai, I remember buying the Genki 1 book.
okay, the game.
I was that. Whatever that level is.
Oh.
Genki 1 is what I was just starting.
Does like knowing more Japanese or less Japanese affect your life in Japan? Or you feel like it's okay? Because if you cannot speak Japanese, you might just speak English, right?
Yeah, I feel like it depends on the person, right? But for me, in any country I live in, if I'm gonna live there,
yeah, that's true. You already been to so many countries, so you have the experience.
I want to make the effort, right? I do know a lot of people that have been in Japan for many, many years and can't speak Japanese.
Yeah.
And I think like it's up to everyone's individual choice, but also I am just a bit like, well, if you're gonna stay, it would be not that hard to learn the basics. I don't think, right? Like,
At least if you just learn like konnichiwa and then people are just happy, something.
how are you?
Yeah.
What are your hobbies? Like just get by kind of conversations. I think everybody should.
Do you have any experience, good or bad, as a foreigner in Japan? Overall, what do you think? Overall, is it a good one or a bad experience? Definitely good. You're a very optimistic person.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's why I've decided to stay forever. I do love living here, right? I think it's amazing. But I also do think there are some really like difficult things to deal with, right? Like, so for example, when I was in California is like a very open, very kind of hippie vibe. I can walk down the street in my bikini and no shoes and nobody will care, right?
Okay.
And also, I'm a very tactile person. I like hugging people.
Yeah.
And so moving to Japan, where there's so much distance, I have to like be conscious of what I'm wearing. I have to be conscious about the conversations that I'm having, because Japanese people don't really like it if you pry into personal things.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a very huge cultural difference.
I'm literally like, how do you feel? This feels like therapy. How do you feel about it? Why did you break up with your boyfriend? What happened?
Oh, yeah. If you like ask the Japanese, like, if you're not close with them, they're like, oh, wait, too much.
Yeah, so that was definitely a struggle
The
for a while.
cultural
difference.
How do you adjust? Do you try yourself to fit in, or you just like, I'm gonna be myself? Like, you have to catch the balance, right?
Yeah, so when I first arrived, I was like, I'm not gonna change, I am who I am. It's like, right? And then I was like, literally, Katie, everybody is staring at you, and I felt like I was in a zoo. So then I went the other side.
That's why I asked you, because I also have a similar experience, I would say.
And then now,
You try to,
I'm kind of in the middle. My clothing style has massively changed.
Really clothing?
Yeah. So
But
I
that's
normally
true.
cover up like shoulders or things like that now.
Oh, okay.
Whereas before I would have just been in vest or tank tops or something.
Okay, but I know you're quite into dating. What do you think the experience
Dating culture in Japan. Dating culture in Japan.
Just in general, how do you feel? Because I never really date Japanese.
It's so different. It's so different. But one of the main difference, right, is normally if you're on, for example, like Tinder or something, you expect to see the person's face, right? So the app that I use isn't Tinder. It's like for Japanese people, right? And it's you literally never see the person's face. It will either be a picture of sushi, a picture of their dog, ramen, or they just take a picture of their hand.
So what if you want to look at their photo? You have to ask.
You have to ask, yeah, because apparently I've asked somebody, right? Why don't you use a picture of your face? And they say, oh, it's in case anybody is from the same company using the same app.
Oh.
They don't want to have that embarrassment, right?
Yeah.
Which I completely understand. But the first time I joined the app, I was like, I don't want to date sushi. I don't want to date ramen.
Oh my god, the privacy level is high.
Yeah.
Do you think it's difficult to date in Japan? Is it because it takes time to like make the distance closer?
No, I think like dating in Japan takes a lot longer. In
Yeah.
England, right, it's the first date and then it's pretty obvious what's gonna happen next, right? It was really good, we'll kiss, or yeah, we're not interested, thank you, see you, right? In Japan, it basically feels like you're just friends. And then whenever I leave the first date, I'm always like, I literally have no idea. It's so awkward.
Not even shake or heart, right?
Yeah,
I think
am
for
I
you.
hugging? Am I shaking? Am I just bowing? Just wait.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a big difference, right? It
Okay.
takes so much longer, and half the time you don't know if you're dating or friends, or the first couple of dates were probably horrendous on my side. So
That's interesting to know.
so awkward.
Okay. So you're working as a professor now.
Yes.
And you also learning front end engineering. And you also have your own business. I know Katie, she has a business to help women.
Yeah.
And you started your business in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Why do you start the business and what made you want to start it?
I guess more than a business, it's probably like a network, right? A network of women. And there's a few main reasons why I started it. Number one was when I first came to Japan, I was living in Kansai, right? And it was fine because I had quite a lot of friends. But during coronavirus, all of those friends went back to their home country.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so the second time when I came back, I felt ridiculously lonely because it's quite hard to make friends in Japan. So I was going to lots of language exchange events, and then at the time I was like giving lots of people my number, but what I discovered was most of the people taking my number were men and were more interested in the dating options than like becoming friends or studying, right? That drove me insane and I absolutely hated it, number one. So I started thinking like, surely there's gotta be a group where it's just amazing women getting together to do stuff, right? That was my initial thought, right? And there wasn't one. So when I moved to Tokyo, I started the community in October last year. And originally we just started as like a social group, essentially. And then
Calling women in Tokyo, do you want to hang out
anyone
together?
want to hang out,
Okay.
like go to a restaurant.
I see, because it also provide a space for like maybe Japanese women. They also want to make friends with international people.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they also have the same
They do.
problem with you, right? Like when I want to like know like international friend, maybe the man it's in the wrong.
They have absolutely had that experience.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, it's good. You provide a space,
Just like a safe space.
Yeah.
And we'd just like go for dinner or watch a movie
I
or
see.
do a tourist event thing or whatever. And then after a little while, I started to get to know all of these women, and like a lot of them are amazing. They're like in their own business, they're starting their own startups, they're trying to found or establish something independently.
So they all have like skills.
They all have skills.
Kind of
and-
amazing.
Yeah, and at the same time that I was learning this information and thinking about like, one of my jobs when I lived in London was all about career progression, right? So working with corporate sponsors and individuals to get them into employment. Right?
Okay.
So naturally my head was like, well, how can I support all of these amazing women who want to do more and be more?
You see that they can do more than
And they want to, right? They're
Okay,
like, oh,
okay.
I'm currently doing this, but I want to do this.
and then you link back your past experience,
Yeah.
your knowledge. It's like
And I was just thinking of different ways that I could build something to help bridge there's a gap, right, between employment and where these women are, right? There's a gap. And so at the same time of doing that, I was looking at a bit of a nerd, and I was reading the Gender Equality Policy Index from Japan.
Okay.
Right? And so I was reading this information, and like Japan, I think was like 116th out of 143 in the gender equality countries, right?
What does it mean? 100
So 146 is the lowest.
Okay.
Like the worst
okay.
gender equality.
Okay. Among the whole world.
Among the whole world. And Japan had fallen. So it was getting worse and worse. Right? So then I was really interested, like, why is gender equality getting worse?
If you don't mention, I will feel like youngest generation nowadays seems better.
Whilst I was looking at that, I was like, oh, in that case then, there's probably something that we can do to help increase the gender equality in the workplace, help women get to be where they want to be, regardless of what it is. Like if you want to become a director of a company, you should be able to, but only like 10% of management positions in Japan are held by women. So 90% of management jobs are men.
Have you checked out the reason behind this? Do you think is it because of the company side? Some of the reasons stop them to hire the women, or do you think it's just maybe women in general don't really stand out?
Yeah, I think there's two main reasons, right? So one of the reasons is that in Japan it's a lot harder for a woman to say like, this is what I am, this is my value, this is what I'm worth, and you should represent me.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you should
true,
see that, right?
That's true. Even the younger generation now.
Yeah.
Also, I've been heard about like, so Japanese women usually their life goal or their dream usually is like, they just want to get married and just be a housewife. Yeah. So even a lot of young generation now, I think there's still a lot of them have this mindset. It's just a very fixed mindset that passed down. It's just society things, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing about number two, right? Because from a company perspective, I'm gonna hire you, put the resources into training you, and then why would I give you a management position if you're gonna go and have a child and be gone for 10 years, right?
But wait, let's say the management people really see this candidate resume, oh, she really has the skills. So when their interview, couldn't they just make it clear? Or maybe, I'm just thinking maybe from the women's side, like they also cannot like be very guaranteed that what if I have a family in the future, I might like go more onto my family. Is it because like, I mean, even women, they don't believe they can judge like work and family too?
Yeah, so I think the issue that we had a similar issue in England as well, which is like, you build, as a woman, you build up all of these amazing skills, right? And then to take care of your child, a vast majority of people will take the time off, right? To take care for the child. In England, we had the same issue. When you come back to work, how do you get back into work? Japan, I think, the issue is returning to work, because a lot of the women in our network, so we now have 300 members, right?
Like Japanese and
non-Japanese. And a lot of them say like they've had children or are putting off having children because it's so hard to get back into the workplace, because there's just no value seen on the skills of raising a child.
Yeah, and also I think even you have a job before you give birth, but let's say you stop for 1 or 2 years, I mean, you definitely affect your confidence level, and you feel like the skill I know it's like 2 years ago. Like now I don't know what happened in this society and the technology. So it definitely is an impact on the confidence level.
I think it's like the same as driving a car, right? You drive your car every single day, and then you have a 2-year gap or a 3-year gap where you don't drive it at all. The first time you get back behind that steering wheel, it's gonna take you time to remember what you're doing, right? And you're gonna feel nervous and anxious and not be your best instantly. That first interview back is going to be exactly the same for those women.
That's true.
So what have you been doing in that
I think no matter what age, almost the same. Even if you are like, when you're young, in your 20s, you might also fail for the first few interviews. But you feel like, okay, I'm young, I'm a newbie, I can just try. But maybe after you get older, you become mother. I don't know, like mentally, you might feel like I cannot withstand too much failure now. Like maybe only like 3-4 times like, oh, what about I just like do housewife, something like that.
So I think basically like what we try and do at She Loves is we collectively decided on 3 pillars that we think are important, right? Like inspiring.
Wait. What is your company name again?
She Loves.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the details here.
She Loves.
She Loves.
So we focus on 3 things. So inspire, so like women sharing stories about like their job, their career, their life or whatever. Like kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We have empower, which is if you want to succeed or change or do something different, we give the skills that's needed.
Yeah, maybe you want to do, but you have no idea how.
We've done like well-being, mental health, communication skills, leadership skills, like all of those things kind of bolster up your own feeling and everything like that. And then the last one is connect, because there was some research that I think it was LinkedIn and Forbes did, where 80% of jobs are found in your network. So not just applying for a random job, right? It's still the culture of who you know is important. So if we have 300 amazing women working at either their own company or a company in Tokyo, Japan, then we have access to 300 different companies, right? That are looking for people. And so this is how we can start sharing.
Does it like expensive to join, or? But I know you've been doing a lot of free events. Right?
We do a lot of free events, Like something that's really important to me as like a personal value is like not gatekeeping information. Gatekeeping means like I know but won't give.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, you're a big sharer.
Yeah, like information is free and accessible and readily available.
As long as you can help people, right?
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like helping people is what makes the world go round, in my opinion. But the other thing is as well, like so some of our events are paid, some of them are free.
Just subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah, men are welcome to join. So we do have but they're welcome to join in a specific way, right? So they can't join the network as a member of the network, right? But I do think in terms of breaking down gender inequality, we need to have men in the room.
Also, you can understand different gender thinking, or like to balance a bit.
Some of our events are open. If we're discussing gender equality, if we're discussing on showcasing women, like International Women's Day, our events is for 2025 is men and women are welcome, because we're all humans at the end of the day, right? But our focus support for training, empowering, connecting is women.
Just a platform to help women, but not really anti-men.
We're not anti-men.
Okay. Do you have any advice to give to people who want to come to Japan, study or work in Japan? But study, I think in your case, you didn't really study here, so How about work in Japan? You know, I always receive a lot of comments. People always saying, I want to like work or study in Japan, but I'm not sure how, especially work. They always feel like I don't really, like my Japanese level is not proficient, so can I work in Japan?
I think one of the big deciding factors about work in Japan is your education level. For example, if you do not have a university degree, it is very hard to become a non-English conversation English teacher. For example, if you want to apply for a school, if you want to apply for university, something that's a registered education body, you need to have a degree. Yeah, I think it's the visa requirements, because even when I applied for my position, I had to prove my high school grades.
Yeah, usually, Right? Oh wait, high school?
High
university?
School, both.
Oh, okay.
So I had to go all the way back. I had to find my high school grades. Like, I'm nearly 40. My high school grades are so long ago. I was surprised I even still had them. But
I thought they only look at university one. Okay.
It depends for each place, right? So the higher level up you go, the more you need to prove your background education, right? So I think that's number one. Like, find out what level you can actually get to before you start thinking about jobs to apply for. Other things for getting a job, if people are interested in English teaching, then my recommendation is to think outside the box. So the reason I got both of my jobs is because I didn't rely on only one job platform, right? There are big job platforms like YOLO Japan, Jobs in Japan.
Okay.
right? But they will have
yeah.
like 500 people applying for one job. Whereas other examples are, I spent a lot of time Googling English jobs newsletters, English jobs subscribe, right?
Oh, okay.
So then you're not
because-
getting the job search
Oh,
sites.
okay, because they're mostly these are the company that just post on your website. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not everything, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
there's one that I recommend called Ohio Sensei. And Ohio Sensei posts up part-time and full-time jobs in a newsletter every single week. Some of them will say you have to already be living in Japan, and some of them say that their visa is sponsored, right? But if you can go in from this level rather than trying to beat 500 applicants for this
Oh yeah,
one.
yeah. I mean, yeah. In terms of the ratio, the chance. Okay.
Yeah.
Apart from working, what do you think if they want to move to Japan to try a new life? Do you have any advice? What can they expect before they're living in Japan? Or you think it's fine?
Yeah. So I think if you're thinking about moving and living in Japan, you've got to think about what it is that you need to be successfully happy in Japan. Right? So for example, and this applies to any country, I think, right?
yeah.
I have so many friends that have left England and decided to move to a country and done it for 6 months or 1 year, hated it and gone back. Because everybody makes the same mistake, right? You just go like, oh, I'm going to move to Japan and it's going to be amazing.
Maybe people just feel like I'm leaving my home country, I'm leaving my home, I'm starting a new adventure, but they're just like happy of their leaving, but they haven't really get prepared for what's coming up.
Yeah, being completely disconnected from your family, being completely disconnected from your friends, being alone, not able to speak the language, not understanding the culture, struggling to pay rent, struggling to buy food at
Make
the supermarket,
friends.
struggling to make friends.
Yeah.
Like if you are just thinking that I'm gonna go and it's gonna be amazing, if you're the type of person that gives up after the first step, it's not for you. If you are the type of the person that's like, wow, this is really hard, I'm going to try this. That didn't work, I'm going to try this. If you are that kind of person, moving to any country will be fine. But it takes a lot of resilience.
I think I heard a lot of like feedback from my friends around me. They also said like, just don't expect like you move to a new country or maybe Japan and your problem gonna solve.
Everything is perfect. Happy ever after.
Yeah. Also try to learn like Japanese, right? Like you mentioned just now, just basic one. So you mean the local, they can also feel that you try, and it's just easier to connect with each other, I guess.
And I think it comes down to knowing yourself, right? So like in my 20s, I feel like I didn't know myself really that well. In my 40s, I know what my values are. I know what I need to feel comfortable and happy and thriving in the space, right? So I feel like if you could set time apart to think about some questions, like what is it I need to be happy? What routines do I want that help me thrive? What are some good habits that I have? Like these kind of questions.
Like spend time to know yourself. It's important.
Yeah. Because then when you get here, you'll be ready for everything that comes your way, right?
It's the real last question. I know you're very bad at nationality, but do you know where am I from?
I know where you're from. You're from Malaysia.
Yeah. So do you know anything about Malaysia?
You don't know this, but I've been to Malaysia.
Where? I didn't know.
Yeah. I actually don't know why we went.
Okay.
But my friend wanted to see Petronas Towers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The two big towers.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd been traveling, and I was 20 years old, and I was doing a round the world trip, and it was 3 months, I think, with some school friends of mine. And we had gone all through like Vietnam, Cambodia, basically worked
the
that way.
Southeast Asia. Yeah, okay.
All the way down to Malaysia.
Do you remember how many days you stayed there?
It was really short. I think it was probably like 5 days or something.
5 days. I mean, good enough.
But I didn't really travel anywhere. I just stayed in
Kuala Lumpur. Yeah.
Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
Oh, we should teach me some Malaysian.
We call it short like KL.
Okay, KL.
Okay.
That makes me sound cool as
Do
well.
you have more impressions?
Yeah, so the thing that I remember is that before that, had spent time in Thailand, right? So it was very like beach hut vibes. So I went from this island life. I had no preconception of Malaysia. Like I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know about these towers until my friend was like, that's why we're going. And I remember being really surprised because to me, it felt a little bit like Hong Kong, in that Hong Kong has that Star Ferry area where everything's suddenly really tall and lights up. Right? When I got to KL, it felt like that. Standing in front of the Petronas Towers was insane. But the Petronas Towers are like so futuristic to me with the thing across here that I was like, wow, how did I just go from Thailand where everything's beachland to suddenly landing in this place that's like really futuristic?
Happy to hear this word, futuristic.
Yeah, futuristic. And then we were staying in Chinatown, and so that was interesting for me because I'd visited London Chinatown, and they felt so different. And I remember feeling really confused. Like, why is my London Chinatown, why is it so different? And I was really
Do you remember?
I can't even remember what the differences were.
Okay.
But I remember the feeling.
I think so.
I would really like to go back to both countries. It's been like, what, 20 years?
Oh yeah. Please go.
You should take me, I'll come and visit you.
Yeah, every guest come to my interview always ask me to bring them to Malaysia.
Oh really?
I will be so busy, but yeah, please visit Malaysia. I think that's all for today.
Thank you so much.
I will post Katie's Instagram and also her website here and also in the description link below. So if anyone interested, you can check it out. Okay?
If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
See you guys in next video. Bye bye.